Hello you lot, Miller Corner here and welcome to 2021. That's right, it's a brand new year and hopefully at least it's going to be better than the last one. We're going to start this year fresh with a Q&A because we have gone a while with that one. I didn't really do a 7,000 subscriber special. By the way, massive thank you to all of you. We're over 7,000 subscribers and that frankly is just awesome. I put a call out on Instagram, on the Miller Corner Facebook page and on my YouTube community page asking you lovely lot for any questions you had, and I got a fantastic response as always. You came through in your droves with plenty of awesome questions for me to answer. I've got my new wireless mic on, thank you mum and dad for Christmas, and without further ado we've got a lot of questions to do, so let's crack on. We're starting with Instagram and I've got my phone just off screen with the questions on. First up is Feel the Drive, who asks, will we see the little nugget on track in 2021, of course being the Super Seicento? The answer is probably not, for various reasons. Most of all because I would imagine most of this year is going to be taken up with turboing the thing. That's not a 5-minute process, particularly when you're as incompetent as I am. But also, as I said before, I am very, very precious about that car. And since I'm about to put some serious money into it to turbo it, the last thing I want to do is bin it in a crash barrier because I'm not very good at driving fast. So I probably will be doing some sort of track action this year. I might even buy a cheap car just to go and rag around a track or something like that, but the Super Seicento is not going to be seeing a track anytime soon. Next up, Renault_Clio 1.2, I wonder what car you drive, asks, when COVID is over, will you be taking a trip to the Netherlands? I actually really would like to take a trip to the Netherlands. I saw bits of it on my drive to Poland and it just looked stunning. Beautiful, beautiful country. I didn't really stop anywhere in Europe apart from obviously for fuel and stuff because I wanted to get all the way to Poland. But yeah, I think as and when I do need to explore a bit more of Europe, and the Netherlands is very much on my list because I seem to have quite a lot of viewers in there, so hello. Daniel R. Brown 11 asks, would you ever get a Cinquecento Sporting? The simple answer is probably not, because if I ever had the space to go and add another car to the collection, it probably wouldn't be a car so similar to one that I already own. I would have one in a money no object, unlimited space, unlimited money garage, but there won't be one joining my personal garage anytime soon. Clutchkick_Robcio, I think that's how you pronounce that, asks, are there any plans to take the Super Seicento on a track day once it's turbocharged, or even on a trip to the Nurburgring? Very quickly, we've done the track day one before, definitely not, I'd probably bin it, and for a very similar reason, probably not to the Nurburgring either. I would love to do the ring one day, and again, I probably will do it in some sort of car, but it won't be the Super Seicento, because again, I don't trust myself enough not to bin it, and when you go and watch that video that Car Throttle did about how much a crash at the Nurburgring can cost you in fees and repair bills and stuff like that, yeah, ain't nobody got time or money for that. CYE375HS asks, what's the next GTV type project? Now for those of you that don't know, March of last year I actually bought an Alfa Romeo GTV Twin Spark from the company I work for and spent a few months improving it and fixing things and tarting it up to then sell it on to make a bit of money for the Samaritan's mental health charity. I loved doing it, I loved owning the GTV, and I would like to do something like that again. Buy a car where it's an honest example with potential that just needs a bit of improving. It's a bit down on its luck. Right now, probably not going to happen anytime soon. The reality is I don't really have the space. Let's not forget, when the Super Seicento is back out of storage, I've got that, I've got my mini company car, and I've got a project car from work these days for Classics World. So I've already got 3 cars around the place and the bike, and at the moment, of course, we've got my mum's Panda, we've got my dad's work vehicle, we've got my brother's red Seicento. Yeah, there's enough vehicles in the household as it is. I don't really have the time, the space, or the capacity to deal with any more cars for the moment. DLW2810 asks, what's the most overrated car? Now, I can't comment on most overrated car ever, because whilst I do drive cars for a living, I'm no Chris Harris or Jeremy Clarkson. I haven't driven every car ever. I couldn't possibly comment on that. But the most overrated car that I've driven was probably the Mark 1 MX-5. I know they're a great car and everyone loves them, and to be fair, I did only drive a 1.6 automatic, which is probably the least desirable version of the Mark 1 MX-5. But it just left me a bit cold. It wasn't obviously fast in any capacity, but it didn't really feel like it wanted to be either. It wasn't eager, it wasn't exciting, it almost felt a bit dead to drive. That said, I drove the Mark II 1.6 and I loved it, so maybe that Mark 1 was just a bad example. ALX_Nikki asks, are you going to go to the track with your Seicento? I've covered this twice already. No, I care about it too much and have very little confidence in my ability not to bin it. Ollie_Morgan21214 asks, before you got the Seicento as your first car, what did you consider as an alternative? To be honest, not a great deal. At the time I was working in fast food and I didn't really have a great deal of money, obviously, so I had to look on the cheaper side of things. I mean, the dream first car, had I could have come anywhere close to affording one, probably would have been a classic Mini. I like the idea of getting one, but frankly, that was a 3, 4, 5 grand car even then, let alone now, so that was never going to happen. I think the car I was probably closest to buying was a Mark 1 Skoda Fabia, probably a 1.2 or 1.4 or something, like my mate Verity now owns, in fact. And actually, on the topic of Vez, check out what she got me for Christmas. How cool is that? Picture of the Super Seicento. Love it. The Flying Banana underscore asks, will the Super Seicento be getting a private number plate? I think I might have touched on this once before in a live stream or something. Probably not, to be honest, because anything that's even vaguely relevant to me with my name or my initials, or relevant to the car, whether it says Fiat or Seicento or whatever, is either really expensive or I can't physically put on the car. We've got a rule in the UK with private plates where you can't put a number plate on a car with a year that makes it newer than it actually is. And even if you eliminate all the ones I can't have, the ones I can are really, really expensive. We're talking £700,000-800,000 potentially, as in 800 to 1,000, not 800,000. Rob underscore OMG asks, what would be your dream project car, money no object, and what would you do to it? I've kind of commented on this before, that the Seicento effectively is my dream project car, because it's a tiny little nugget that you can just thrash the hell out of, and I am doing what I want to it gradually. It's just taken me a while to save up the money to be able to do it. If that wasn't an option though, and if and when, haha, the Super Seicento is finished, what would I like to move on to? I like the idea of some sort of EV conversion. I'd like to take my time, if I had a big garage and all the money in the world, to experiment with an EV conversion. I've touched on the fact I'd quite like to do it with a Citroen DS, but even if I did some sort of electric drift car or something like a BMW E30, just some sort of electric conversion, that kind of thing fascinates me. So there you go, EV conversion on something that deserves it. Another question from Rob, he asks, who are my favourite YouTubers? Just off the very top of my head, Mighty Car Mods, watch them all the time, Car Throttle, watch them quite a lot, 44 Teeth if you're into your bike stuff, I do watch Ian at Hubnut as well, Doug DeMuro, that's a given, Hoovie's Garage for a very similar reason. I mainly stick to car YouTubers, to be honest, but those are a small selection, and those 5 or 6 are the ones that I watch the most. My buddy Josh over at Maverick Motors asks, if you could own any Austin, Rover, BL, MG, pretty much any classic British car, what would you go for? I am quite a Rover fan, to be honest, and at this time last year, some of you may know, I daily drove an R8 216 SLI as my classic project car for Classics World. I absolutely love that thing. I guess I would probably just go for a really nice Rover R8, maybe with a diesel, possibly, go for a 218 or a 418 estate or something like that. Rover R8, I know it's a really humble and not particularly exciting car, but I really, really gel with that thing. Love them. Ed underscore Hoop asks, how many horsepower do you think the Super Seicento will make when it's turbocharged? I know what people are making with roughly the amount of boost I'm planning to run, because off the top of my head I'm thinking between 8 and 10 psi is a safe amount for an engine that's not forged and not built and not low compression and all the rest of it. I would think I'd be aiming for anywhere above 120 horsepower at the flywheel is kind of my plan, because I've got in my head, if it's making about that, the power to weight ratio is roughly that of an Abarth 595 or a Fiesta ST, something like that. And if I'm making that kind of power to weight in a car that's still going to be considerably cheaper and obviously far smaller, yeah, that can only be a good thing. So 120 plus is my target. Jakov underscore MB asks, have you ever considered buying a classic Fiat like a Tipo or a Tempra or an Uno or something like that? And do you think it'll ever happen? Yeah, I would like to get something kind of 80s or even older Fiat into the garage, an Uno or a late 126 obviously, or something like that. But again, as we've said before, I don't really have the space right now. Zucconi underscore 04 asks, how much was your Seicento when you bought it? I honestly can't remember, to be honest. Even the current shell, when I bought it, that was 2 years ago now, 3 years ago. And as part of kind of for birthday stroke Christmas that year, my parents paid for part of it and I paid for part of it. So if I'm honest, I can't really remember. But if you do want to know how much to pay for one and what to look for on one, go and watch my Seicento buying guide video. HJujitsu underscore asks, what's the best mod I should do to my Seicento? I always say coilovers are a great place to start. They get rid of the body roll, you can lower it a bit, and they don't ride too badly, even the relatively cheap TA Technics ones. So that's a great one. If you want it to sound even better though, a Sportex catback exhaust like I've got on my car is awesome. Ian at Team Bolilo Classics asks, now you've driven a classic Mini, will you be adding one to the garage? Yes, if you keep up with my exploits over on Classics World, you'll know that relatively recently I drove a Mini Clubman 998 automatic and I loved it. I thought it was great fun. I'm probably not going to be adding one to the garage for two very good reasons. Number one, I've already got one fun little nugget, and number two, as I've said before, space. I just don't have the space for even another small car, and three, actually, classic Minis are expensive. Panda Paul 100 HP, I wonder what your car is, asks, have you ever driven a Panda 100 HP and what did you think of it? Never driven one. I do like them, I like the way they look. I've kind of sat in one and looked around one, but never driven a 100 HP. But that said, if it's like my mum's 1.2 but lower, stiffer, faster and sportier, yeah, it's already got my approval. Cento_life asks, will you be doing a POV driving video, the Super Seicento? I would love to. When it's turboed, I think we definitely need to make that happen. Go on some nice roads in the Brecon Beacons or somewhere, it's gotta happen. But not for a little while. Let's turbo it first. I am Nico_S asks, will you be swapping a 16 valve engine or turboing your fire engine in your Super Seicento? I covered this about 3 videos ago. I'm turboing it and it's going to be awesome. Jeremy Richter 7482 asks, where did you get your headlights from? I love them. Yeah, lots of people do. I get that question a lot. If you go and watch the video Building My Dream Seicento, you can see where all the parts were got from and what I used to actually Seb built them for me. But yeah, they are a DIY thing. You can't just buy them off the shelf, as awesome as they are. But yeah, I might break that little segment up into its own video because I do get that one asked a lot. Next up, we're onto the YouTube community page, and Jack Howe asks, do you like classic Fords, and if so, which one's your favourite? Not really, to be honest. I haven't been brought up in a Ford family like a lot of people have, and I think a lot of them, particularly the Cosworths, are massively overpriced for what they are. That said, I have driven the Mark III Escort XR3i that we've got on the Classics World fleet, and that was quite good fun, if slightly flawed. If it counts as a classic though, my favourite classic Ford is the Puma. I think that's a wicked fun little car for what it is. You can get for under £1,000, even a decent one, and they are massively underrated and one day will be a classic. Go and buy one while they're cheap. Josh Bone asks, how much does it cost to modify the Seicento? A lot of money, a lot of blood, sweat and tears, and almost all of my sanity. Cy Bon, I think that's how you pronounce that, asks, are there any more road trips coming, lockdown permitting? Yes, there are, but obviously all the while the Super Seicento is being turboed and the bike's in bits as well, not for a little while. Wolves Wheels asks, what was your favourite adventure or memory from 2020? To be honest, a lot of the stuff we did for Classics World last year was brilliant. We went to Wales and filmed some JDM Legends in the Brecon Beacons. Just the summer of 2020 was great because the lockdown eased a little bit, we could get back out into the real world, did a load of stuff on the Alpha, got back in love with the Seicento, hooning it on loads of country roads. The summer of 2020 for me was really good, despite everything, despite the lack of shows or anything. I really liked it. Dewey WC asks, what's the 0 to 60 and top speed of the Super Seicento? I don't know, I've never measured it in its current form, to be honest. I mean, its current form is in bits on a ramp, so it would be very, very slow as fast as I could push it. Mr. Joseph Lloyd of Lloyd's Vehicle Consulting asks, are there any plans to add to the fleet in 2021? Not any long-term additions, not like lifers like the Kawasaki or the Seicento. Those two are staying. Nothing's going as far as I'm aware, but there might be a temporary addition. We'll have to see. Mr. Marcook1 asks, do you belong to any car clubs? Not massive clubs, not like the MG Car Club or anything like that, obviously because I don't own an MG, but anything major, but a lot of Facebook groups. In fact, pretty much all the Fiat, Seicento, Cinquecento, just Fiat in general, Facebook groups, I'm on there. So if you see me on there, say hi. I'm going to put your name on screen because I'm not going to be able to pronounce that, I do apologise. Asks, what mods can we expect on the Seicento this year? Suspension stuff is first. I want to get the rear shock sorted, do some bushing type stuff, then we're cracking on with turboing it. And then I'm actually going to drive it. Melvin Paley asks, any more plans for any videos on the ER5? I'm way ahead of you on that one, my friend, because off camera, as far as you're concerned, I have already been filming it, the strip down has begun. In fact, the bike is in the garage right now, stripped down pretty much to just the engine and the wheels. It's been a lot of work, but yes, the rebuild on the Kawasaki is beginning. You're going to see the first video in that series very soon. Wicked Snake asks, would you install a roll bar and or a wide body kit on the Super Seicento? Probably not a roll bar for two very good reasons. One, again, as I've said, I'm not planning to track it, and two, with insurance in the UK, you do have to declare all the mods you've done. If you declare a roll bar, the first question they're going to ask is, why do you need a roll bar? If your answer is, because I might roll it, Yeah, that insurance ain't going to be cheap. Ruby Cupid MB asks 5 different questions, and you know what? As a treat for the new year, I'm going to answer all 5 of them. First of all, would you choose a Daihatsu Cure or a Mark I Ford Cat? Probably a Cure, actually. I do like small Japanese stuff, get it with a 3-cylinder, and also it's not going to rot at the mere mention of oxygen like a Mark I Ford car does. Fiat Uno Turbo or Fiat Coupe? I genuinely couldn't pick, but that'd be a really good 2-car garage, wouldn't it? Thoughts for 2021? Here's hoping it's better. Thoughts on the 2030 ban on new petrol and diesel cars in the UK? I think it's too soon, if I'm honest. I don't think we're going to have an infrastructure in place ready for electric by that point, and as much as I hope hydrogen takes over, we are nowhere near ready to have a hydrogen infrastructure yet because they're not really progressing with it. I think it's too soon, and I think give it a couple of years, that will be retconned. They're going to push it back to 2040 or similar. Best memory of 2020? Making the best of it, because it brought out the best and the worst in a lot of people last year, and I think any happiness you could still have, still see people at distance, still enjoy it, any happiness that you got out of last year is the best bit of it as far as I'm concerned. And he's added another one, beg your pardon. What cars are you buying for your next cheap classics challenge on Classics World? You'll have to wait and see, but that video is coming probably the end of February, beginning of March. What I will say is that this time round, Jeff and I are going head to head, and the cars involved are some proper nuggets. You're going to like this one. Lunatic the Nick, fantastic username by the way, says, would you make a Spotify playlist of your favourite driving songs? Probably not, to be honest. My music taste is a bit all over the place, so unless you have very specific tastes exactly like mine, you probably wouldn't want to listen to all those songs back to back. And when I'm actually driving properly, as in down a B road or something, I turn the music off and I concentrate and listen to the engine. He also asked, is there another virtual car meet coming soon? Oh yes, you seem to love those in 2020, so this year we're going to continue to do them. Next up, we're onto the Miller Corner Facebook page, and Will Amos asks, once the turbo's on, will the Super Seicento get any chassis mods like bracing or a Club Sport cage, or even some semi-slick tyres? We'll see, to be honest. I've got some decent Falcon tyres on there anyway. I've got coilovers. We're going to be sorting out the rear shocks and polybushing it before the car gets a turbo, and we'll see how it handles whatever power it eventually ends up with. If it needs more, we'll do more, but if not, just going to send it. Toby Smith asks, are you going to turn the pump up and turbocharge that diesel 205? For those of you that don't know, I did run a 1.8 litre diesel Peugeot 205 as my Classics World project car until recently. I don't have it anymore. We sold it all on. In fact, we sold it, the Puma and the Range Rover on to the same buyer who since moved it on again. So the 205 does indeed live on, but not with me anymore. Arthur Dardalis asks, how did you fix the mushy brake pedal with your Punto GT brakes? As we said in the video, I've put a new master cylinder on, new fluid all round, braided brake lines, and we've bled it up and got what feels like a decent pedal in the workshop, but the car is still in the workshop. I haven't actually driven it yet, so I don't really know if we've actually improved the pedal feel at all until I've given the car a proper drive, but I will report back on that one. Bass Kickert asks, what are your plans for travelling in 2021, and will you be taking the Seicento to the Nurburgring? We've covered Nürburgring before. That is not going to happen with the Seicento, but possibly with something else down the line. And travel plans, I'm not making any travel plans right now. We don't know what this year is going to bring with lockdown and COVID and all that stuff, and I've got some nuggets to be spannering on at home, so let's get them ready for road trips and then plan them. My man Cody Dagley asks, one day will you be adding a classic car to the garage? I'd love to, frankly, whether it's a Fiat 126 or Citroen DS, whatever. I would love to own a proper classic from the 60s or 70s, but as I've said before, space, money, time, resources, it's a real commitment to own a classic car and keep it in good nick, and frankly, I struggle enough running the Nugget fleet I've got, so all in good time. Peter Waygood asks, would you like to test my banger Fiesta? Just looking at that one picture, which I'm going to overlay now, yeah, I'm down for any cheap, fun, small nuggets. David Longman asks, have you considered taking the Seicento on the North Coast 500 in Scotland? Oh yes, I would love to do that one day. Scotland is a hell of a hike from where I live. It's probably a day and a half of driving to even get to the NC 500, let alone to then do it and then come back again. I would love to do that though. That has been a dream road trip for me for a couple of years now. When the Super Seicento is turbocharged, when it's got everything sorted, that seems like a great test for it. Drive all the way up to Scotland to make sure it's reliable, then bash it around some of the best roads in the world, then drive it back and hope nothing breaks. Yeah, I'm going to make an ultimatum now actually. When it's done, we're doing that. So there we have it, all your questions answered to Ring In 2021 on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you to everyone who put some questions in for this one. I really appreciate it. Hopefully that's given you some idea of what I've got planned for this year, what we're going to be doing on the channel and what you can expect as far as videos, cars, adventures and everything to come Miller Corner this year and beyond. Without further ado, I've got a bike in bits in the garage and a Seicento that needs a turbo, so I'm going to crack on. Happy New Year everybody, catch you soon and have a good one.